Hey guys, for today's read aloud, we're going to be reading pages 14 through 19 of Pioneers to the West. We're going to learn about a new person who was traveling west with her family. She's very interesting. Our focus question before we start is reread pages 14 through 19 of Pioneers to the West. How does asking and answering questions help you understand what you read? So technically, we don't even need to do the reading in order to answer this question because we've read before. And we all know that when you ask questions when you're reading and when you answer questions when you're reading, of course it's going to help you understand what you read because you can get answers and you can get more clarity. So it becomes more clear to you what you're reading if you ask and answer questions while you're reading. Um, you can also it also helps you remember what you're reading more when you ask questions during what you're reading. So keep that in mind as we read today. Maybe we can come up with some questions that we might have while we're reading, and then to be able to answer them so the information can be more clear to us and we'll remember it better. All right, so here we go. We have 2 vocab words today. We'll do them in the second video.
Wisconsin, 1870. Not all of the pioneers were living with American Indians or searching for gold. Most lived simple lives, working on farms or raising animals. Some moved many times, always looking for the next opportunity or chance to make their lives better. Laura Ingalls is shown here with her parents and her 3 sisters, Mary, Carrie, and Grace. Laura is the middle girl in the back row.
So this is Laura right here. We're going to learn a lot about Laura Ingalls. She ends up being very famous, actually. We'll see why.
Laura Ingalls. Laura got a love of reading and learning from her mother. From her father, she got a combination of independence and adventure. Charles Ingalls called himself a pioneer man. Laura would later call herself a pioneer girl.
So we remember pioneers are like settlers, or people who were heading west to explore new land.
To the prairie. Laura Ingalls was born in 1867 in Wisconsin. She was the second of 4 girls in her family. She also had a little brother, but he died before he was a year old. It was not unusual for children to die young in those days. When Laura was only 3 years old, the family moved to Kansas. Laura's father had heard there was good farmland in Kansas. At the time, this was still Indian territory. American Indians lived there and laid claim to it.
So remember, we talked about the Indians that lived there before the pioneers came in. So the Indians had a conflict with the pioneers because the pioneers were taking their land. And another name for their land is called their territory, or a territory. Another word for territory is like an area of land. So these pioneers moved into these Indian territory, and that caused a lot of conflict.
Laura called her Kansas home the Little House on the Prairie. Prairie is land made up of open fields of grass. This picture shows what it would have looked like inside.
So actually, Little House on the Prairie became a very famous book that Laura Ingalls ended up writing, and then it became into a TV show as well, Little House on the Prairie. So that's how Laura became famous as she got older.
Many journeys. After a year in Kansas, money problems forced the Ingalls family back to Wisconsin. Laura's father, Charles, was always looking for new opportunities, and soon the family moved to Minnesota. There they lived in a dugout house. This was a house that was actually dug out of the earth. They had a dirt floor and grass on the roof.
So, I mean, it probably wasn't the cleanest house, but it sounds kind of cool to live in a dugout house. They dug it out into the ground and they lived sort of underground there. Our vocabulary word here was opportunities, was our second vocab word. And we know opportunities are like chances for improvement or chances to get better. So we'll take those notes afterward when we finish our reading on our next video.